The trading post on Kepler 442b buzzed with the usual mix of species conducting business in the Outer Rim territories. Zephyrian traders haggled over rare minerals, while insectoid Vrick mechanics repaired damaged starships. The air hung thick with the smell of ozone and exotic fuels, punctuated by the constant hum of translation devices working overtime. Sarah Chen sat quietly in the corner booth of the cantina, her 5-year-old daughter Emma coloring on a digital pad beside her. They were waiting for transport to the core worlds, refugees from the mining colony that had been raided 3 months ago. Sarah's husband hadn't made it out. Now she clutched their meager savings and hoped to start over somewhere safe. She should have noticed the 3 aliens watching her from across the room, but exhaustion clouded her judgment. The Korvaxi mercenaries had been tracking human settlements for weeks, looking for easy targets. Their reptilian leader, Skax, studied Sarah through his optical enhancers, noting her protective posture and the way she constantly checked their surroundings. "Perfect specimen," he hissed to his companions in their native tongue. "Human female, maternal instinct strong. The hegemony pays triple for breeding stock with offspring." His lieutenant, a scarred veteran named Thex, shifted nervously. "Humans are dangerous, Skax. Remember what happened to Clan Vorthak when they tried to enslave a human settlement." Skax's tongue flicked out dismissively. "Vorthak was careless. They tried to take warriors. This one is just a mother with a small child. What threat could she pose?" The third mercenary, a young Korvaxi called Riven, had heard the stories too. Humans were supposedly primitive, but their reputation for violence when threatened was legendary across the outer systems. "Maybe we should find easier prey. There are plenty of weaker species here." "Coward," Skax snarled. "The hegemony specifically requested humans. Their adaptability makes them valuable workers, and their emotional bonds ensure compliance. Take the child, and the mother will do anything we ask." Sarah felt eyes on her and looked up to see 3 large reptilian figures approaching. Each stood nearly 7 feet tall with mottled green skin and predatory yellow eyes. Their clothing marked them as mercenaries, and the weapons at their sides made their intentions clear. Her heart rate spiked, but she forced herself to remain calm. "Emma, sweetie, pack up your pad," she said softly, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "But, Mommy, I'm not done with my picture," Emma protested, holding up the colorful drawing of their old home. "We need to go now," Sarah insisted, gathering their few possessions while keeping the approaching aliens in her peripheral vision. Skax reached their table first, his massive form blocking their exit. "Human female, you will come with us. No resistance, and the youngling remains unharmed." Sarah's mind raced. The cantina was crowded, but no one seemed willing to get involved in mercenary business. The local security force was notoriously corrupt, probably already bought off. She was on her own, just like she'd been since David's death. "I don't know what you want, but we're just travelers," she said, standing slowly and positioning herself between Emma and the aliens. "We don't have anything valuable." Thex laughed, a harsh, rasping sound. "You misunderstand, human. You are the valuable cargo. The hegemony has buyers lined up for your species." "Slavers," Sarah breathed, her worst fears confirmed. She'd heard whispers about human trafficking in the Outer Rim, but had hoped their obscure destination would keep them safe. "Such an ugly word," Skax replied. "We prefer procurement specialists. Now come quietly, or we take only the child and leave you here to wonder about her fate." Emma looked up at her mother with wide, frightened eyes. "Mommy, I'm scared." "It's okay, baby," Sarah said, her voice gentle even as her mind shifted into survival mode. She'd been a military engineer before settling on the mining colony, and David had taught her combat techniques during the long, dangerous asteroid runs. These aliens thought they were dealing with a helpless civilian, but they were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't technology or weapons, It was the lengths a mother would go to protect her child. "We'll come with you," Sarah said finally, appearing to surrender. "Just don't hurt my daughter." Skax's eyes glittered with satisfaction. "Wise choice, human. Riven, take the youngling. Thex, secure the mother. We leave immediately." As Riven reached for Emma, Sarah noticed his inexperience in the way he moved, too focused on the child and not watching for threats. Thex was overconfident, already turning toward the exit. Only Skax remained fully alert, but even he had made a crucial mistake. He'd underestimated what a human mother was capable of. Sarah had been subtly shifting her weight, calculating distances and weak points. When Riven's clawed hand closed around Emma's arm, she moved with explosive speed that caught all three aliens off guard. Her first strike went to Riven's throat, targeting the soft scales there with devastating precision. The young Korvaxi's eyes bulged as his windpipe collapsed, and he released Emma to clutch at his neck, gasping for air. Before Thex could react, Sarah had already pivoted, driving her elbow into his solar plexus with enough force to crack ribs. The lieutenant doubled over, and she followed up with a knee to his jaw that sent him sprawling across the cantina floor. Skax roared in rage and surprise, reaching for his sidearm, but Sarah was already inside his guard. She grabbed a broken bottle from the table and drove it deep into the gap between his armor plates, finding the major artery in his upper thigh. The entire exchange lasted less than 10 seconds. The cantina erupted in chaos as other patrons scattered, some screaming, others reaching for weapons of their own. Sarah scooped up Emma and their belongings, scanning for exits, while keeping an eye on the three mercenaries. Riven was unconscious, possibly dying from the throat injury. Thex was dazed but starting to recover, blood streaming from his broken jaw. Skax pressed his hands against the wound in his leg, his yellow eyes blazing with pain and fury. "Impossible," he wheezed. "You're just a mother, just a weak human female." Sarah's expression was ice cold as she backed toward the rear exit. "You're right about one thing. I am a mother, and you just threatened my child." She'd learned something important about humans during her time on the mining colony, watching families face impossible odds against raiders and natural disasters. Humans weren't the strongest or fastest species in the galaxy. They weren't the smartest or most technologically advanced. But when it came to protecting their young, they became something else entirely. Something that made predators across the galaxy think twice before targeting human families. The other patrons gave her a wide berth as she moved toward the exit, Emma clinging to her neck. Word was already spreading through the cantina's communication networks. A human mother had just taken down 3 Korvaxi mercenaries with her bare hands in less than 10 seconds. "Security is coming," someone shouted in broken standard. Sarah didn't plan to be there when they arrived. Corrupt security forces often worked with slavers, and she couldn't risk Emma's safety on the hope that these particular officers were honest. She slipped out the back exit into the maze of maintenance tunnels that honeycombed the trading post. Emma was crying softly, traumatized by the violence, but unharmed. That was all that mattered. "Where are we going, Mommy?" Emma whispered. "Somewhere safe," Sarah promised, though she had no idea where that might be. The Korvaxi weren't the only mercenary group operating in the Outer Rim, and word of her actions would spread quickly. She'd bought them time, but at the cost of making herself a target. Behind them in the cantina, Skax struggled to his feet with Thex's help. Riven was barely breathing, his throat swelling shut. The reputation hit would be devastating. 3 experienced mercenaries taken down by a single human female. "Track them," Skax growled through gritted teeth. "Call in every favor. I want that human found." But as they stumbled toward their ship, other conversations were taking place throughout the trading post. Humans weren't common in the Outer Rim, but there were a few scattered here and there. Engineers, traders, explorers who'd left human space for various reasons, and they'd all just heard about a human mother who'd proven that their species' reputation for protective violence wasn't just propaganda. The word was spreading through quantum communication networks, reaching human settlements and ships throughout the sector. Sarah Chen didn't know it yet. But her desperate act of protection was about to change everything for humans in the Outer Rim. The galaxy was about to learn that kidnapping a human mother wasn't just dangerous because of what she might do. It was dangerous because of what other humans would do to get her back. Sarah navigated the maintenance tunnels with the precision of someone who'd spent years working in confined spaces. Emma had stopped crying, but she remained pressed close against her mother's shoulder, her small hands clutching Sarah's jacket like a lifeline. The trading post's infrastructure was typical of Outer Rim installations, hastily constructed and poorly maintained. Pipes leaked various fluids, and the air recycling system wheezed with mechanical strain. But the maze of passages provided perfect cover for someone who knew how to move quietly through industrial spaces. Sarah found what she was looking for after 20 minutes of careful navigation. An old cargo access shaft led directly to the docking rings where private vessels were moored. She could bypass the main corridors entirely, avoiding both security patrols and any other mercenaries who might be hunting them. "Mommy, my tummy hurts," Emma whispered. "I know, sweetheart. We'll get some food soon," Sarah promised, though she had no idea how. Their credits were limited, and using official channels would leave a trail that could be tracked. As they emerged near the docking bays, Sarah noticed unusual activity. Ships were arriving at an unprecedented rate, and the vessels weren't typical civilian transports. These were combat-modified freighters, exploration ships with military-grade shields, and a few vessels that looked suspiciously like decommissioned naval craft. More importantly, she was hearing something that made her heart skip a beat. Human voices. "Beta Team, secure perimeter around Dock 12. No one gets in or out without our say-so. Gamma Squadron, I want those sensor arrays online in 5 minutes. If Korvaxi reinforcements show up, we need advance warning. Medical Team to Dock 7. We've got wounded coming in." Sarah crept closer to the communications hub, staying in the shadows while Emma dozed fitfully in her arms. Through the grimy windows, she could see humans setting up what looked like a command center. Real humans, not just the scattered individuals who usually work the Outer Rim. A familiar voice crackled over the comm system, speaking in the crisp tones of someone accustomed to command. "All units, this is Captain Marcus Webb of the Free Trader Defiant. Situation update. Target is one human female, approximately 30 years old, traveling with a young child. She was last seen in Sector 7 after neutralizing 3 Korvaxi mercenaries. Our objective is to locate and extract her before hostile forces regroup." Sarah's eyes widened. They were talking about her, but these humans were here to help, not capture her. She looked down at Emma, who was starting to stir. "Alpha Team reports movement in the maintenance sectors," another voice reported. "Could be our package, could be hostiles. Proceeding with caution." "Acknowledged. Remember, people, we don't know what kind of training this woman has. But anyone who can take down 3 Korvaxi in close combat deserves our respect. Approach carefully and identify yourselves clearly. The last thing we want is to spook her into another defensive action." Sarah made her decision. These humans had come for her, somehow organizing a rescue operation faster than should have been possible. The Outer Rim wasn't exactly known for its rapid communication networks or coordinated responses. She emerged from her hiding spot, Emma in her arms, and walked slowly toward the nearest group of humans. They wore mismatched gear that suggested civilian backgrounds, but they moved with the discipline of trained fighters. "I'm Sarah Chen," she called out, her voice carrying clearly across the docking bay. "I think you're looking for me." The humans spun toward her, weapons raised but not pointed directly at her. Their leader, a grizzled man in his 50s with cybernetic implants around his left eye, stepped forward with his hands visible and empty. "Ma'am, I'm Captain Webb. We're here to get you and your daughter to safety. Are you injured?" "We're fine," Sarah replied, though her voice carried the exhaustion of someone who'd been running on adrenaline for hours. "How did you know to come here? How did you even know what happened?" Webb's expression was grim. Word travels fast when humans are involved, especially when one of our own does something that impressive against hostile forces. The whole sector's been buzzing with reports about a human mother taking down 3 Corvaxi mercenaries. Another human, a woman with pilot's insignia on her flight suit, jogged up to them. "Captain, we've got problems. Long-range sensors are picking up at least 6 Corvaxi vessels inbound. ETA 30 minutes, maybe less." "How many?" Webb asked, his tactical mind already working through options. "Full-pack formation. Looks like they called in favors from every clan in the sector. We're talking about 40 to 50 hostiles, minimum." Sarah felt ice form in her stomach. "They're coming for us. I hurt their pride when I fought back." "More than that, ma'am," Webb said. "You've become a symbol. Word about your actions is spreading through human communities across the Outer Rim. People are starting to remember what we're capable of when we stick together." He gestured toward the growing fleet of human vessels. These ships started arriving 2 hours after the initial reports went out. Traders, miners, exploration crews, even a few mercenaries who work for the honest side of the business. Every human within 3 jump points dropped what they were doing to come here. Emma had woken up and was staring at the assembled humans with wide eyes. She'd never seen so many of her own species in one place, having grown up in the isolated mining colony. "Are they here to help us?" she asked in her small voice. "Yes, sweetheart," Sarah said, feeling a mixture of gratitude and guilt. These people were risking their lives for strangers simply because they were human. Webb knelt down to Emma's level, his harsh features softening. "What's your name, little one?" "Emma. Are you soldiers like Daddy was?" "Some of us used to be." "Your daddy was a soldier?" Sarah answered for her daughter. "Military engineer." "He died defending our colony from raiders 3 months ago." Webb's expression hardened again. "Corvaxi?" "Different clan, but yes." The captain stood, his cybernetic eye whirring as it focused. "Then this is about more than just rescue. This is about sending a message that humans don't abandon their own." Another communication came through the comm system. "Captain, this is Lieutenant Hayes on perimeter watch. I'm seeing unusual activity from other species' ships. Looks like they're clearing out fast." "Smart of them," Webb muttered. "Word's getting around that there's about to be a fight, and nobody wants to get caught in the crossfire between humans and Corvaxi." Sarah looked around at the organized chaos of the human operation. "Captain, you don't understand. I'm not worth this kind of risk. There are 50 of you here, maybe more. You can't put all these lives in danger for one person." Webb's laugh was harsh, but not unkind. "Ma'am, with all due respect, you don't get to decide what we're willing to fight for. Every human in the Outer Rim knows they're one bad day away from ending up in your situation. Pirates, slavers, corrupt officials, alien supremacist groups. We all face the same threats." He gestured toward his assembled fleet. "But for the first time in years, we're doing something about it together. You gave us a rallying point, a reminder that we don't have to just accept whatever the galaxy throws at us." A young technician hurried over with a data pad. "Captain, intelligence reports are coming in about the Corvaxi force composition. It's not just mercenaries. There's at least 1 clan warship in the formation." "Warship?" Sarah asked, her stomach dropping. "Heavily armed and armored vessel designed for fleet combat," Webb explained. "The fact that they're bringing one here means they're not just trying to recapture you, they're trying to make an example of anyone who helps you." He activated his comm system. "All ships, this is Webb. Intelligence confirms we're facing a significant Korvaxi force, including heavy combat vessels. Anyone who wants to withdraw now can do so with no judgment. This fight is going to be ugly. The response came from multiple voices across the comm network. Negative, Captain. Free Trader Songbird standing by. Mining vessel Iron Will remaining in formation. Exploration ship New Horizon holding position. Explorer's Dream staying put, Captain. These bastards need to learn a lesson. One by one, every human vessel confirmed they were staying for the fight. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes as she realized what was happening. These people, scattered across the galaxy and often isolated for years at a time, had come together because one of their own had been threatened. Why? She asked Webb quietly. Why risk everything for strangers? The captain's expression was thoughtful as he watched his people prepare for battle. Because we're human, ma'am. When someone threatens our family, our young, our future, we don't back down. We remember what it means to stand together. He looked down at Emma, who was watching the preparations with fascination rather than fear. And because that little girl represents everything we're trying to protect out here, our right to exist, to raise our families, to live free from fear of slavers and pirates. The comm system crackled again. All ships, enemy formation is 15 minutes out. Time to show these reptilian bastards what happens when they mess with human families. Sarah held Emma close as the human fleet prepared for battle. She'd started the day as a refugee trying to escape notice, but somehow she'd become the center of something much larger. The scattered humans of the Outer Rim were finally standing together, and the galaxy was about to learn what that meant. The Korvaxi had wanted to make an example of her. Instead, they were about to become an example themselves. The human fleet formed up in a defensive formation around the trading post, their mismatched vessels creating a wall of determination that surprised even Captain Webb. He'd expected maybe a dozen ships to actually stay for the fight, but 43 human vessels now held position, ready to face whatever the Korvaxi brought. Sarah found herself aboard the Defiant, Webb's command ship, with Emma safely secured in the medical bay under the care of Dr. Lisa Park, a former naval surgeon who'd been running medical supplies to frontier colonies when the call went out. "Mommy, the nice doctor lady says I can watch the stars from here," Emma said, pressing her face against the reinforced viewport. The innocence in her voice stood in stark contrast to the battle preparations happening around them. "That's wonderful, sweetheart," Sarah replied, though her attention was focused on the tactical displays showing the approaching Korvaxi force. The enemy formation was massive, more ships than she'd ever seen in one place. Webb appeared beside her, his cybernetic eye displaying data streams that only he could see. "Mrs. Chen, we need to discuss something. My tactical officer has been analyzing the Korvaxi formation, and we've identified their flagship." He pointed to a massive vessel at the center of the enemy formation. "That's the Bloodfang, personal ship of War Chief Korthak. He's not just any clan leader. He's the one who's been pushing for systematic human elimination in this sector." Sarah's blood ran cold. "Elimination?" "The Korvaxi see humans as a threat to their expansion plans. We're too unpredictable, too dangerous when cornered. Korthak has been advocating for what amounts to genocide, disguised as pacification operations." Dr. Park looked up from where she was entertaining Emma with holographic medical displays. "That explains the response scale. This isn't about one escaped slave anymore." "Exactly," Webb confirmed. "Your actions in that cantina have become something much bigger. You've proven that individual humans can fight back successfully, and that's terrified them. If word spreads that a human mother took down 3 of their warriors, it undermines their whole propaganda about human weakness." Sarah sank into a nearby chair, the weight of the situation crushing down on her. "I've doomed all of you. If I'd just gone quietly, then you and Emma would be dead or worse, And these bastards would keep picking off human families one by one, Webb interrupted firmly. What you did was exactly right. The only mistake would be backing down now. The comm system activated with an incoming message on standard diplomatic frequencies. The screen flickered to life, showing the scarred face of War Chief Korthak himself. His yellow eyes blazed with cold fury, and ritual scars covered his muzzle and neck. Human vessels, you will surrender the female and her offspring immediately. You have no chance against our fleet. Comply, and we will allow the rest of you to leave unharmed. Webb activated the response channel. War Chief Korthak, this is Captain Marcus Webb representing the free human settlements of the Outer Rim. Our answer is simple. Go to hell. Korthak's expression shifted to something resembling surprise. You would sacrifice 40 ships for 2 individuals? This proves human logic is fundamentally flawed. No, Webb replied calmly. It proves you don't understand what you're dealing with. Every person on these ships has family, friends, people they care about. We know that if we let you take Sarah and Emma, next time it could be our loved ones. So we fight now, together, or we die separately later. The war chief's laugh was a harsh, grating sound. Admirable sentiments, but futile. You face the combined might of 7 clans. Your primitive vessels cannot hope to match our firepower. Webb glanced at Sarah, then back at the screen. War Chief, there's something you should know about humans. We're really good at making the impossible look easy, especially when we're protecting our young. The communication cut off, and immediately the tactical displays lit up with incoming weapons fire. The Korvaxi had opened the battle with a massive barrage intended to shatter human morale before the real fighting began. Instead, the human ships scattered like leaves in a wind, their smaller size and improvised modifications allowing for maneuvers that the heavy Korvaxi vessels couldn't match. The trading post's defensive grid came online, adding its firepower to the human side. All ships, execute pattern Delta, Webb commanded. Let's show them how humans really fight. What followed was unlike any space battle the Korvaxi had experienced. Instead of the formal fleet engagements they were accustomed to, the humans fought like a pack of wolves. Individual ships would dart in, strike at vulnerable points, then disappear behind asteroids or debris before the enemy could respond effectively. The mining ship Iron Will, heavily modified with industrial cutting lasers, sliced through the armor of a Korvaxi destroyer like it was processing ore. The exploration vessel New Horizon used its advanced sensor suite to coordinate targeting data for the entire fleet, turning their communications advantage into devastating focused fire. Sarah watched in amazement as the human fleet demonstrated tactical flexibility that kept the larger Korvaxi force off balance. How are they doing this? Most of these people aren't even soldiers. That's exactly why it's working, Webb explained as he coordinated the battle from his command chair. Military training teaches you to follow established patterns. These people think like engineers, miners, traders, explorers. They see problems and solve them creatively. A small explosion rocked the Defiant as a Korvaxi patrol craft managed to score a hit on their shields. Emma looked up from her coloring, startled by the sound. "It's okay, baby," Sarah said, moving to comfort her daughter. "The captain and his crew know what they're doing." Dr. Park had pulled up a tactical display on her medical station. "Sarah, look at this. The Korvaxi are starting to fall back toward their heavy ships. The human hit-and-run tactics are working." But Webb's expression was grim. "The light stuff, yes, but Korthak hasn't committed his main force yet. He's learning our patterns, adapting his strategy. When he does attack, it's going to be brutal." As if summoned by his words, the Korvaxi formation suddenly shifted. The smaller vessels pulled back, revealing the true extent of their heavy firepower. The Bloodfang itself began moving forward, its massive weapons systems coming online. "All human vessels, this is War Chief Korthak. You have fought bravely but futilely, Surrender now, and I will grant you the honor of dying quickly. Webb's response was to launch every torpedo the Defiant carried directly at the Korvaxi flagship. Human fleet, all ships converge on the Bloodfang. If we're going down, we're taking that bastard with us. The human ships responded instantly, abandoning their hit-and-run tactics for a desperate frontal assault. It should have been suicide against such overwhelming firepower, but something unexpected happened. The Korvaxi hesitated. For just a moment, faced with the sight of 40 human ships charging directly into certain death to protect one mother and child, the alien warriors faltered. It was so far outside their understanding of rational behavior that their coordination broke down. That moment of hesitation was all the humans needed. Sarah watched in awe as the human fleet struck the Korvaxi formation like a hammer. Ships that had been modified for mining, exploration, and trade became instruments of war in the hands of people fighting for everything they held dear. The Iron Will rammed directly into a Korvaxi heavy cruiser, its reinforced hull designed for asteroid impacts, punching through the alien vessel's shields. The New Horizon coordinated a precision strike that took out the Bloodfang's main sensor array, blinding the flagship at the crucial moment. And through it all, Webb's voice carried across the comm channels, steady and confident. Remember, people, we're not just fighting for Sarah and Emma. We're fighting for every human family in the Outer Rim. Show them what happens when they threaten our children. The battle turned into something the Korvaxi had never experienced. Human ships that should have been destroyed kept fighting, held together by emergency repairs and sheer determination. Crews that should have retreated instead pressed forward, trading their lives for tactical advantages. War Chief Korthak found his flagships surrounded by human vessels, each one a threat despite their smaller size. His tactical officers were reporting impossible things, human ships continuing to fight after taking damage that should have vaporized them. Coordinated attacks from vessels that had no business working together so effectively. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. His senior advisor, an ancient Korvaxi warrior named Vex, studied the tactical displays with growing unease. "War Chief, I have fought humans before. They become something else when their young are threatened, something that defies logic or self-preservation." Korthak snarled in frustration. "They're just mammals. They can't possibly—" His words were cut off as the Defiant itself appeared directly in front of the Bloodfang's main viewport. Webb had positioned his ship for a ramming attack, knowing it would mean certain death for his crew. But he was counting on something the Korvaxi couldn't understand: human psychology. "War Chief Korthak," Webb's voice came over the comm channels, calm and steady despite the fact that he was seconds away from certain death. "Last chance. Withdraw your forces and leave this system, or I ram your bridge and we all die together." Korthak stared at the human ship, so small compared to his mighty flagship, and for the first time in his career felt something he'd never experienced before. Fear. Not fear of death, which was familiar to any warrior. Fear of an enemy that would sacrifice everything for principles he couldn't understand. Fear of creatures that became more dangerous when cornered, not less. "Stand down," he ordered his weapons officer. "War Chief?" the officer questioned, unable to believe what he was hearing. "I said stand down. All ships, withdraw to minimum safe distance." Webb held his position for long seconds, then slowly backed the Defiant away from the Korvaxi flagship. Around them, the human fleet maintained their aggressive positions, ready to resume the fight at a moment's notice. "This isn't over, human," Korthak transmitted. "You're right," Webb replied. "Next time you think about targeting human families, remember this day. Remember what happened when you picked on one human mother. Spread the word through every clan, every sector. Humans protect their own." The Korvaxi fleet began its withdrawal, massive ships turning away from the trading post with their mission abandoned. As they disappeared into hyperspace, the human fleet erupted in cheers that could be heard across the comm channels. Sarah held Emma close as she watched through the viewport. Around them, 43 human ships had proven something important to the galaxy. Humans weren't just another species to be exploited or eliminated. They were a force to be reckoned with when they stood together. Emma looked up at her mother with bright eyes. "Mommy, are we safe now?" Sarah smiled, thinking of the human ships around them and the message that would spread throughout the galaxy. "Yes, sweetheart, we're safe. And so is everyone else." The rescue of one human mother had become something much larger, a declaration that humanity would not go quietly into the dark, and a promise that anyone who threatened human families would face the consequences. The galaxy had been reminded why humans were called the most dangerous species in known space when their young were threatened. Not because they were the strongest or the most advanced, but because they were the only species that would sacrifice everything to protect their own. And that made all the difference.